Hey there, young biologists! Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to have you here for an action-packed look at nature's tiny heroes and their absolutely amazing biological adaptations. You know, if you've ever felt like you're just too small to make a big difference, well, today we are going to look at some astounding evidence from the wild that will completely change your mind. We're diving deep into the science of how the littlest creatures on Earth actually manage to take down the absolute biggest, scariest giants. Let's get right into it. Let me ask you something. When you close your eyes and picture the ultimate fierce rulers of the animal kingdom, who pops into your head? Do you picture towering elephants, maybe roaring lions, or massive hulking bears? It's so easy to assume that because an animal is huge, heavy, and loud, it must be the unstoppable king of the wild. But what if I told you that you might need to completely rethink those assumptions about size and strength? What if the true rulers of the wild can actually fit right in the palm of your hand? Here is our secret agent superpower checklist for today. 1. The big animal myth. 2. Toxic and deadly superpowers. 3. Speed, precision, and swarms. 4. Fearless defenders. And 5. Evolution's lesson.
All right, let's jump right into section 1. The big animal myth, and why size isn't everything.
So there is a massive misconception in biology that we really need to bust right out of the gate. A lot of times we think of the wild like this giant wrestling match, right? Where the heaviest, tallest competitor automatically wins. But honestly, that simply isn't true. Sheer size absolutely does not guarantee that an animal is going to survive or win a battle in the wild. Nature doesn't just hand out trophies for being the biggest. Out there, survival is like a complex puzzle, and being huge, well, that's just one very small piece of it.
And we've got the facts to back this up. We're looking at this amazing piece of research from the Nature Network, literally titled 14 Small Animals That Could Kill Much Larger Predators. It reveals that some of Earth's most dangerous creatures are actually surprisingly small. There are tiny animals out there right now that can overpower or even kill predators that are many times their own size. And the wild part is, they aren't relying on big muscles to do it, they're relying on highly specific specialized biological adaptations. Which brings us perfectly to Section 2. Toxic and deadly superpowers, or as I like to call them, poison shields and venom blasters. Okay, so what exactly do we mean by a chemical defense? Well, imagine having a built-in poison shield or a literal venom blaster right inside your body. A chemical defense basically means that over millions of years, an animal has evolved powerful biological weapons. We're talking about producing a deadly venom when they bite or secreting a toxic chemical right out of their skin. So when a giant predator comes along thinking they found an easy little snack, this chemical defense acts as an invisible, highly lethal weapon that stops the giant right in its tracks. Think about the animals that make up our chemically armed squad. We have poison dart frogs, using their brightly colored, highly toxic skin to say, hey, don't even think about eating me. We have blue-ringed octopuses, bullet ants, and sea snakes. Some of these guys have evolved absolutely devastating chemical defenses and deadly venom. And then, oh wow, you have creatures like the mantis shrimp. They are part of this group of small animals wielding bizarre and powerful weapons. Everything from devastating crushing jaws to literal electric shocks. They might be tiny, for sure, but they are fully loaded, lethal threats. Moving right along to Section 3. Speed, precision, and swarms. The fast fighters and mega swarms. Now I want you to picture a tiny little stoat, or maybe a shrew, standing face to face with a massive, hulking predator like a wolf. When you think about the sheer physics of it, it seems completely impossible for the tiny creature to survive, let alone actually win against such a huge opponent. It looks like a biological mismatch of epic proportions, right? But here is where it gets so cool. Creatures like stoats and shrews totally level the playing field. They don't try to out-wrestle the giant predator. That'd be crazy. Instead, they use blazing, lightning-fast speed and highly specialized pinpoint precision hunting techniques. Being tiny means they can dart, weave, and completely outmaneuver a clunky, larger animal. They successfully hunt animals far larger than themselves simply because they turn their small size into the ultimate advantage of agility. But hey, what if you're not super fast? Well, army ants use a completely different but equally amazing superpower, the mega swarm. It works in 3 steps. Step 1, gather overwhelming numbers. We're talking millions of tiny ants teaming up. Step 2, swarm the larger animal all at once. And Step 3, render them entirely helpless. One single ant is obviously no threat to a large animal, but an army of them working together flawlessly, They can overpower almost anything. It's proof that ultimate teamwork is literally one of the greatest superpowers in nature. Let's hit Section 4, Fearless and Fierce Defenders, the Grumpy Guardians. You know, nature isn't always about chemistry, speed, or numbers. Sometimes it is literally just about pure, unfiltered attitude. Tiny creatures like the honey badger and the wolverine flat out refuse to back down from a fight with a predator that would normally completely dominate them. When a much larger animal approaches, these grumpy guardians don't run away. No way. They stand their ground, bare their teeth, and unleash a level of sheer ferocity that completely shocks the bigger animal into retreating.
I absolutely love how our source material sums this up. Extreme aggression and fearlessness can sometimes be just as effective as size. Think about it. If you act big, loud, and completely fearless, you can convince a predator that you are way too much trouble to mess with. Having an intense, fiercely aggressive attitude can quite literally keep you alive in the wild.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, Evolution's Real Lesson: Grains, Teamwork, and Toxins. When you pull all these facts together, you start to see a really clear pattern of how these specific evolutionary traits lead to survival. It's a simple breakdown. Intelligence and precision, that lets you outsmart huge predators. Venom and chemical defense, boom, you're defeating giants with toxins. And swarms and teamwork, that allows you to render much larger prey entirely helpless. Every single one of these traits gives a distinct, incredibly powerful advantage. So the big takeaway for our explainer today is this beautifully simple fact. Evolution is definitely not just about building bigger muscles. It's not about turning everyone into giant, hulking monsters. Evolution often favors intelligence, venom, perfect teamwork, and incredibly unique adaptations way over sheer physical strength. Nature has literally taken some of its absolute smallest creatures and turned them into lethal threats capable of defeating predators that should, by all rights, totally dominate them. And honestly, that is the true magic of biology. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this question. Imagine you are heading out into the wild. Which of these incredible evolutionary superpowers would you choose to have? Would you go for the toxic shield of the poison dart frog? The blazing speed of the stoat? The unbeatable teamwork of the army ant? Or maybe the fearless, grumpy attitude of the honey badger? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and never, ever forget that sometimes the absolute biggest impact comes from the smallest packages. See you next time.